Wednesday's edition, the vlog here, Culotta and the Prince, jam-packed show. We talked to Stephen Ridley, former Tiger tailback, NC State head basketball coach Mark Godfrey stopped by, and just like every Wednesday, NFL future Hall of Famer, 16-year NFL vet, Kevin Mawai in for the center of the week. Godfrey, we talked a little bit about him and how they plan on defending Martin and Mick. He thought he'd be a little passive, but he kind of tipped his hand and said, look, Billy Donovan said it best. Nobody can guard those guys one-on-one.
Before we get to talk about that, I want to give a little bit of a behind-the-scenes here. Jordy worked so hard to get this interview, and we didn't have it locked in. We're in headlines to start the show. Here's what's trending. Jordy looks at his phone, sees that it's Mark Gottfried responding back to a text, and Jordy's trying to read the news, read his text, and celebrate all at the same time.
While punching you.
While punching me. And he's like, read this, and he's shaking the whole while. So, yeah, it was nice to get that, a good get, and a great conversation with Coach Gottfried, who was very honest about, a lot of things, one of which, like you're talking about here, he just comes out and says, look, this is how we're going to defend this, hope and pray that the fouls that we have keeps us in contention here. And, it's kind of a different approach than some other coaches that we deal with. But at the same point in time, if you know somebody's got a big, strong front line, you have to just be as aggressive as you can be. And from a coaching perspective, when talking with the media, look, I think we all understand that's what he's got to do to come out and try to defend against Martin and Mickey.
NC State LSU, first round, Thursday, 8:20 tip-off from Pittsburgh. You were listening to the Stephen Ridley interview. I know you were very impressed with the former Tiger tailback.
Without a doubt, he speaks so clearly, and you can tell he's an educated kid that understands the business of football and understands the opportunity that it is. A lot of guys come into the NFL thinking that it's their right, it's an inherent right that they have, but I think he views it as a different approach, that there's an opportunity to set myself up for my next career, for my next season of life or whatever. And that's the kind of kid that ends up playing 12 or 15 years because he's got it figured out. And so going into free agency, coming off an injury for him is a big opportunity for him, whether he gets a one-year deal or a long-term deal. But it's a season where he's going to have to prove himself that he's healthy enough to have a long-term contract down the road.
Speaking of the business of the NFL, D. Smith brought back in as the NFLPA president. Your reaction?
Yep, D. Smith was elected on the first ballot, which, considering that there were 8 candidates to win with the majority on the first ballot, speaks volumes of what the player leadership feels about him, about bringing him back to guide the NFLPA for the next 3 years before the next election were to take place. But there's a lot that's negative things have been said about the CBA and about how the players have lost a lot in the CBA, but you look at the numbers now, there's more money being spent and more guaranteed money being spent on player contracts this free agency than ever before. Salary cap's risen $20 million over the last 2 years, and it's going to continue to grow. And I think those things are the things that people have a tendency not to talk about in the CBA, especially the candidates that were running against him. But it was a good win for him, and I think it was a great decision for the players.
We talked to you about it on air. Borland, the rookie, after his rookie season with San Francisco, decides to hang it up, becomes one of a few players here in the offseason that are considered young in the game to step away. You said on air, this isn't a problem for the league.
No, it's not a problem for the league. The league's got 10, 15 more guys looking to fill his role. The draft's coming up next month. You're going to have all these free agencies. You're going to have 276 kids get drafted. Another 400 of them are available for the free agency pool on top of the veteran guys that are still out there. You're just going to take one out, plug 2 more in, and that's the way the NFL rolls, with the NCAA providing free services to develop players to get to that level. It's never going to be a problem for the NFL. There's always somebody waiting to take that next role, like we said on there, next man up. It's a decision he had to make. It's a personal decision, and I respect him for that. Not a lot of people can walk away from the game on their own terms like he did.
Really good collegiate baseball game in the city of Baton Rouge last night. It wasn't at the box. It was up in North Baton Rouge, up at Lee Hines Field with Southern and LSU. Tigers had to come back in extras to win 4-2 over the Jags.
Yeah, and again, you see a lot of development over at Southern right now. Dan Canterbury coming in, working with that pitching crew. Roger Cater has always been a guy who's coached up his teams, so a really well-coached team over there. That's good. Southern's baseball program has always been, one of the premier schools in the SWAC, and I think that this year they based upon what we've seen, and of course they got a little bit later start with some of the weather and other things, but what we've seen is that they're developing there, and that's good. A good, strong Southern baseball team that can make a run into the postseason, that's good for the city of Baton Rouge.
Culotta and the Prince, weekday morning 7 to 9 a.m. Every Wednesday. It's the center of the week with Kevin Mawai. Follow us on Twitter at 1045 ESPN.